It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Penn University's Associate Head Men's Basketball Coach, Coach Nate Grantham. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get involved in coaching in college basketball?
That's a good question. I guess, I always obviously spent a lot of time playing and loving basketball. In some ways I had a love-hate relationship with basketball at times. There was some good moments, some bad moments. Definitely learned a lot from it, and not just from a basketball perspective, but life. I got done playing, and I just kind of rolled into it in part because of at the time just not having a whole lot of options. And then so I was an assistant coach right after playing, just because of circumstances. And then after that, kind of moved on and got a real job and was doing some of that. And then I decided to go back to grad school, and I had never taken any education classes. I was thinking I'd be a teacher. And then while doing that, was thinking, oh, maybe I'll be a high school coach or something. So it just kind of happened that way. And ended up at some point hooking on for an unpaid job with Coach Donahue when he was at Cornell. So it just kind of happened. I think as I progressed to getting that job, I started thinking more and more about making a career of it and trying to get in. And I, like a lot of people, my first job was getting paid no money. And so it was something that kind of evolved and developed as the years went on, and got lucky enough to get my foot in the door.
What was your college playing time at Penn?
My first 2 years here, it was not a lot. Coach Dunphy was the coach at the time here at Penn before he went to Temple. And, I was part of my first 2 years, was part of the team that won 48 straight league games and was very good. So, I think I was in the top portion, but Coach Dunphy didn't always play a ton of guys off the bench. So, my playing time was up and down those first 2 years. And then my junior year, we lost a bunch of those guys from that team. And, my playing time had increased, but, I just, at that point in my life, was having some struggles and ended up leaving the team. So, the year that I started playing, I ended up not even making it through the whole year. So, so my journey's been a little different. So I didn't finish my career at Penn. I ended up, I was going to transfer and do kind of before it was a big thing, kind of a grad transfer thing. And then I ended up going to Canada, which I had never been to, and I ended up getting to play 2 years up there and started my coaching career up there. So and married my wife and all that stuff. So it ended up working out well, but I played much more after Penn than I did during Penn.
What was that experience like of getting to play overseas and professionally at Denmark?
Yeah, so I mean, I played very briefly in Denmark and Ireland. It was I really liked the learning new cultures and getting to travel and that type of stuff. I didn't always like the basketball stuff. Some of what I liked about being part of a team in high school and college was the camaraderie and all that stuff. And some of that goes out the window when you're getting a check, particularly if some of the other guys on the team aren't getting a check. So some of the business aspects weren't great. I probably would have stuck it out. That was pretty low level. I was certainly making enough that I got to take some home and live, but it wasn't a ton of money. And the situations, were had some things that were maybe a little dicey at times. And I was when I was in Denmark, my wife was with me. She wasn't my wife at the time, but I think if I had been single and on my own, I might have stuck it out a little more. But at the time, I just felt like, as we began our life together, that I didn't know it made sense at such a low level to keep trying to go through it. So I ended up, pulling the plug after basically 2 seasons.
What was it like just getting started at Toronto University as the assistant coach?
Yeah. So as I was saying, I had gone back to school, was thinking about being a teacher, but my wife is Canadian. So, the cost of education is so much cheaper, particularly for Canadian residents, to go back to Canada. So she hadn't finished school. So we went back so she could go to the University of Toronto and get her degree. And so I ended up getting hooked on coaching there, and it was great. Canadian basketball in some ways is probably like Division III in the sense of there's not a huge budget, there's not a huge staff, and so I had to do everything, including in the summers run a summer league and stuff. And so it's great preparation in terms of just learning a whole bunch of things and kind of the skills that can carry over as you get new jobs. And so it was great. We had we took over a team that had struggled the year before and did pretty well, and you recruited some good players, and so it was a great kind of experience to benefit me down the road as my coaching career moved on.
What was that experience going back to your alma mater to coach as the assistant coach at Western?
Yeah, so I played 2 years at University of Western Ontario, and that was actually my coaching. That was the first coaching job I had. So after the year of playing, I went and played in Ireland. I came back and just because I had nothing else to do, jumped on the coaching staff. So yeah, it was interesting. I mean, I was definitely thought I knew more than I knew, and was really young, and but it was good. It was interesting because a lot of the guys on the team I had played with. So trying to coach guys you played with, and you've shared experiences that coaches and players wouldn't typically share was made it a different dynamic. But it was good. I mean, again, so I at the University of Western Ontario, I met my wife, and then my best man was on the team, and so that experience ended up being good for me. For I had never been to Canada, thought about Canada, and so it turned out being good for me.
What was that transition of like leaving Western Ontario to go to Cornell?
Yeah, so I left Western, and then for a while we were down in New Jersey, and that's when I was working on my master's degree in education. I had a job at a YMCA for a while. My wife got a work visa down here. She was working. We lived in an apartment in Burlington, New Jersey. I taught 8th graders for a while, 7th and 8th graders for a while. And then she, as I said, she needed to go back to school and finish. And so that's when we went back to the University of Toronto. So, that's the year I did coaching there. And then, at that point I had started thinking that, I had done a little bit of high school coaching and some stuff. And I started thinking about coaching as a career. And so I had been bothering Coach Donahue, who had been an assistant when I was at Penn, about giving me a job. And he didn't do it for a couple times. He hired some other people, but then he eventually relented and gave me a job, and that's how I got my foot in the door. And yeah, so it was, again, the Ivy League has some things that are different than the rest of Division I. I mean, no scholarships, and we didn't at Cornell, we didn't have a very large staff outside of the coaching staff. We didn't have a director of operations or things like that most programs have. So it benefited me that I had been at places where I did so many different jobs and had learned those things. And so it helped with the transition to Cornell and being at a place where we had to do all those things that typically somebody else on a staff would take care of. But I had to step into recruiting areas that I hadn't recruited before and make connections. And I had basically only recruited Canadian kids at that point. So, and for a short period of time. So, tried to hit the ground running, and we ended up being pretty good at Cornell. So I guess it worked out all right.
What was that experience like of coaching in the Ivy Leagues and coaching against Yale, Harvard? And then what was it like also going to the Sweet 16 with Cornell?
So, I had played in the Ivy, so I had a little bit of a sense about what the Ivy was all about. But as a coach, you learn so many things that you don't realize as a player, and that's true anywhere. But in addition to that, in the Ivy League, there's such unique things about the league, and that includes admissions and the financial aid process with no scholarship. So I learned a great deal about that stuff, and just some of the ins and outs from a level that I had not considered when I was a player. But the league is great. I've been very fortunate. Being in the Ivy League, you have an opportunity to coach some guys who are not only good Division I basketball players, but are have some other things about them from a life perspective, an academic perspective, just being able to have conversations that are away from basketball with guys on a who are college age kids on a basketball team that you may not other places. And so I've always really enjoyed it. I mean, I stay in touch with guys, from Cornell and, that I've coached throughout. And, it's a lot of times I feel like the kids we've been able to recruit at Cornell and Penn, it's like coaching guys that you would be friends with if it weren't for the coach player relationship. Not that we're not friends, but, if I was their same age, I think they're the type of guys that I would have hung out with. So, it's great from that perspective. And then, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Penn have kind of traditionally been, the top half, or at least recently. I mean, at one point it was Penn and Princeton for forever, and now Harvard, Yale, Penn, and Princeton may be kind of the top half. But the other places do such a good job. Because it's a small league, you've got such good coaches. The scouting is crazy. It's just such a competitive league. And then, historically, you have the Friday, Saturday back-to-back games, all the things that, the difficulties that presents, and trying to figure that out. So it's a really tough league. There's great people in the league, great coaches, really good players. I mean, the level of player across the league has just gotten better and better and better. And the parity throughout the league has gotten better and better and better. And then, going to the Sweet 16 with Cornell, I mean, it was an amazing experience. I don't think I realized at the time how amazing it was, because I was young and I thought it was easy. I thought, oh, we'll just keep doing this all the time. But, I mean, Cornell's a place that hadn't had a ton of success previous. We had won the third of our championships with kind of the same group, and just kept getting better and better. And it was a great ride, with a group. It was really close and fun to coach. And I mean, in hindsight, I realized how amazing of a feat that was.
How was it like, obviously, leaving the Ivy League for 1 year to go to the ACC to coach at Boston College?
Yeah, so I mean, that Sweet 16 run kind of led to that. Coach Donahue got the job offer at Boston College and told me he was going and I could go if I wanted. And, I was really excited about the chance to see what we could do in the ACC. The Boston College job is not the easiest one in the ACC. And so, I think in some ways our experience helped, but obviously we ended up not not doing well enough to stick around. So we were there for 4 years and then out. But it was amazing to kind of sit there and see some of the teams and some of the talent and some of the players in that league. And it was a crazy, it was a great challenge to try to um, compete against those places that are such perennial basketball powerhouses, and try to find a way, even though we couldn't recruit the same players they could, somehow find a way to try to beat them. Was an amazing challenge. And I think even though it ended up not being a success, I've learned a lot from it, and it's made me better. And I'm thankful for having gone through it. The last year wasn't necessarily a fun year at the time, but it was amazing to, I remember the one time we played North Carolina. I guess it was my first year at BC, and we had a pretty good team. Had kind of really exceeded expectations, and North Carolina had Tyler Zeller and John Henson and Harrison Barnes, and they had a bunch of NBA guys, and it was just at some point during that game I was like, wow, man, these guys are really, really talented. So that there was some times during that stretch where it's almost like the fan in you would come out a little bit and be like, wow, I'm getting to sit here front row and watch this level of talent play is pretty cool.
What was that experience like of coaching against Roy Williams and Mike Krzyzewski? And as you said about Tyler Zeller, did you ever see Tyler Hansborough play during your time at Boston College?
Yeah, so I'm trying to remember. I guess can't remember if we overlapped with Hansborough or not. Maybe early in his career. I mean, he was such a tough player, and played so hard. Um, Roy Williams, Coach Williams was always just such a nice guy. That was the first thing I really was struck with him, for a guy who is, a lot of times those guys that are so famous in the public eye so much, they don't necessarily have time for other people because they're kind of they've got bigger things to attend to. But he says hello to everybody and is nice to everybody that crosses his path. And I was always just really struck by a guy who is a Hall of Famer and has done as much as he's done in this game, that he had time for everybody, whether it was me or a manager or somebody else working around the university. I think the thing I was struck most with Coach Krzyzewski, obviously, his teams, for being able to recruit the level of players they recruit, his teams just play so hard. I was really just amazed that he could get that level of player to play as hard as they did. He's extremely competitive. I don't think I realized how competitive he was. And then when you're out there on the floor and you can hear the things he's saying during the game, I was a little taken aback. I wasn't aware that he was that vocal or that competitive. But I mean, both of those guys are I mean, they're the royalty of the coaching field. So it's pretty cool, again, to be able to be in games with those type of coaches and all they've done in the business, but also with the type of players that they were had on their teams was pretty cool.
How did it feel, obviously, to return back to Penn to be the associate head coach at your alma mater?
Yeah, so when I first came back, it was before Coach Donahue had taken the job. It was when Jerome Allen was still coaching his last year here. And so, that was great. So I had played with Jerome my first 2 years. I mean, he was such a great player. And then on the staff as well was somebody else who was on those teams, Ira Bowman, who's like a brother to me, and as as close as I am with anybody in the world. And I think he's as good a human being as there is out there. So getting to come back and be around Jerome, but also in particular Ira, and have our relationship kind of grow even more so was awesome. It was cool to be back in the city. My parents actually live in Philadelphia, so it was great to be back near them. And I just really like the city of Philadelphia. I have an affinity for Philadelphia that I didn't have for the other places that I had been to. My parents are both from this area. I have gone to school here. I know a lot of people here. I just, there's things that I feel, the kind of the grittiness of Philadelphia, I like. And so it was great to be back in Philly. It was great to be back in Penn. Um, you know, unfortunately, we didn't have a great year, and we were let go as a staff, and I was fortunate enough that Coach Donahue got the job and kept me around and kept Ira around. So Ira and I got to be here, after that year for a few more years together, which was great. Because again, he's as good a friend as I have in this world. Consider him a family member. So yeah, I mean, and then we were able to kind of have some success after Coach Donahue got the job and get it back in a good direction here. So that was good. It was good to be a part of that. And I know that the fans and the people who care about Penn basketball, it was, I know they were very appreciative of us getting back to where they feel Penn should be, and competing the way that we can here. So.
Of course, what was that 2018 season like when you won against Villanova as they were the champs the year before?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, the Big Five is a big deal here in Philadelphia. People outside of Philly don't necessarily know about it, but it's all the Division I schools except for Drexel are part of what's known as the Big Five. So LaSalle, St. Joe's, Temple, Villanova, and ourselves. And so, we going into that season, we were still building it, and we didn't start off the year. I guess that's the year before when we won the championship. That year we didn't know we were going to be as good as we were, and we ended up having a great year. Even at the beginning of the year, we didn't start off great. So we won the championship in the Ivy League and went to the tournament, and they won the national championship. And then the next year we come back, and so now we had a little bit of success, and we felt like we could continue to get better. And we both, we started off the year pretty well. They had lost obviously some guys from that national championship team, but still were in the top 25. And anytime, I mean, Nova has come to dominate the Big Five by so much, and have done such an unbelievable job with their program and winning 2 national championships. So, every time we play them is a big deal for us. And was up in the Palestra, which is great, and it was packed, and we knew we had a chance going into the game, and played well, and we're up, and luckily had enough to hold on to win. And so that that was a great feeling, because it had been a long time since Villanova had lost a Big Five game, and they're such an unbelievable program. So having the chance to compete against them, but also be able to beat them was a great thing for our program.
What was that feeling like for you getting to coach back in the Ivy League, to coach against Princeton, Yale, Harvard, and those other teams?
Yeah, I mean, again, I had done it at Cornell and had played in the league, and so the league is just so unique. I mean, because of the academic limitations, restrictions, whatever you want to say, in terms of recruiting, and because of the financial aid uniqueness. The only Division I league in the country that doesn't have athletic scholarships. And then we end up recruiting a lot of the same guys. So guys that we didn't get end up on other schools in the league. And so there's a familiarity with each other that maybe isn't the same in other leagues. It's only 8 schools. So it's a very unique league. And again, the coaching is so good. The scouting is so good that the players are usually pretty smart players. And I think a lot of years, I remember one of the years since I've been back at Penn was like, I think the the average score and point differential of the games was the closest of any league in the history of basketball. So, I think that it tends to be an extremely competitive league. The scores are usually pretty close, that from top to bottom. Now there's not a huge discrepancy. Anybody can lose to anybody. And so it just makes for sometimes very stressful, but a very competitive league. And then, we've historically had the Friday, Saturday back-to-backs, and that's just, it's such a hard thing to do, win or lose on Friday, to then try to get ready for Saturday. And I think, only the people that have had to go through that can really understand it, how hard it is, and get your team prepared and ready to play again the next day, and the physical toll that it takes on our guys. So, but it's been great. The league has progressed from the days of when it was usually just Penn and Princeton, and now it's, top to bottom, such a good league, and there's just really good players throughout the league. So it's, I think it's much better for the overall league. The tournament has added to that as well. Again, I think that's much better for the overall league. So I think it's in a really good spot.
Of course, can you talk about the culture that you've helped build upon as a coach from when you were a player?
Yeah, so I think that's something we really try to put a lot into, is the type of culture we have. Coach Donahue has his pillars that we try to instill in all our guys, and basically recruit with as well. So we're thinking about that culture as we recruit, and then we have a word that we use that's taken from the All Blacks, which are the New Zealand rugby team, called it's a Maori word called whānau, which for is kind of like family, but even more so. So we really try to instill that and be a family atmosphere, and our guys are very close and care about each other. And I think we've tried to put a lot of time in building that culture. And I think we had a great culture at Cornell, and then we got to Boston College, and it wasn't always exactly where we were. So we, Coach Donahue and then myself as well, I've thought a lot about how to get that right. And so we've really tried to get that right since we've been here at Penn. And I think we have a great culture and a great group of guys, and very, very fortunate to be able to coach at this place.
What does the recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes?
It's very similar to everywhere else, with the exceptions of the admissions and the financial aid. We're seeking out people that fit not only the way we play, but also the type of guys we want and the type of people, and for this program, and then obviously academically for this institution. So it's very similar. We're going to see them as much as we can. We're going to talk to them as much as we can, talk to the people around them as much as we can, and then you eventually get to the point where hopefully they get to come see the campus, and some visits, and get to know people in and around the program. And recruiting is a hard thing, I think, for the families, particularly if they've never experienced before, because it's different, and it's always so fluid. Teams are getting guys or recruiting guys or stop recruiting guys, and I think sometimes for families, they don't always understand what's going on, and it's hard. It's a hard thing to really grasp, because it's so ongoing and fluid. But yeah, I mean, we're just trying to get not only the type of players that can be successful, but the type of people that can be successful here.
What does that official visit look like as a coach? Obviously, as you are an alma mater of the program. So what does that look like as a coach, seeing those players on the official visit put on that jersey?
Yeah, so when we get guys to come for official visit, thankfully the NCAA has allowed us to pay for their parents now to come as well. So I think it's a chance for them to get a taste of being around the program, meeting the guys, meeting us, and getting to know us better. getting to know, the support staff in the athletic department, or some academic people around the campus, getting to see the campus, just really trying to get a feel for what it would be like to be a part of our school and our program. And then it allows us to do the same with them and their family. Again, we really want to have a family atmosphere. We want to make sure we have the right type of people, and so it allows kind of for that in a 48-hour window to really try to get as far as we can in that relationship, and understanding each other and making sure it's the right place for that young man to be a part of Penn.
What is the feeling like as a coach and an alma mater to see them put on that jersey that you got to put on?
I mean, I feel very, very proud of the type of guys we have brought here, and that continue on the legacy. We try to, make sure that we connect them to the past, and that they understand what this place is about, and all the things, the great, both basketball accomplishments and the things as an institution that this place has been. And, we try to make sure that they're entrenched in what Penn is about in all ways. But also, we've more and more so tried to connect them to the community, not only of Philadelphia but West Philadelphia, both from a basketball perspective, and just our school is in the community of West Philadelphia, and trying to bridge that dichotomy between the community and the school. So yeah, I mean, it's again, we have great guys, and I love the guys we have and have had since I've been back, and I take great pride in the type of people they are, and getting to continue to have relationships with them when they're done.
What advice would you give those prospective student athletes looking to play college basketball?
Well, I think if they're hoping to play in the Ivy League, they've got to take care of the academic stuff. But from a purely basketball perspective, I mean, like anything, you got to put time into it to be really good at it. So that's part of it. Some things are just, you can't necessarily control, how tall you are, or some of the genetic factors in your athleticism or whatever. But whatever you have, you can put in the time to try to make the most of what you've got. And so I think that's something. I think just working on your strengths and weaknesses as much as you can, learning how to play the game, putting yourself in situations to where you're being very competitive and you're tested. It's not always just putting yourself in easy situations. I think the way the game is evolving now, being as skilled as you can, and certainly being able to shoot the ball, are always great assets. But I also think, there's guys who maybe aren't good enough to play in Division I, who play at Division II or Division III or whatever it is, and those are great opportunities too. I mean, I think there's very few guys who really make their living and their life off of playing professional basketball, and any chance you have to play after high school on a team, in a program. I mean, those are great experiences. You're going to end up meeting people who are going to be parts of your life for the rest of your life, that are going to impact you. And I mean, the great thing and beauty of sports is that it can impact your entire life. It's not just the games and the seasons and the wins and losses. And there's things that you will learn as a person. There's things, again, that through basketball, I met my wife. Through basketball, I have my closest friends in the world, and I've been exposed to things that I may not have been exposed to otherwise, and feel like that has made an impact on how I am as a human. So, I think, I mean, that's my advice, is to take all you can get out of it, not just the sport and the basketball piece and the wins and losses, but all the things that are wrapped up and being part of a program and getting to meet people from different walks of life and and get to experience all the things we get to experience because we're involved in basketball.
What advice would you give those college basketball players looking to go to the NBA or even overseas?
I think you got to work really hard. You've got to, try to do all you can from a physical standpoint of taking care of eating and working out and sleeping and do maximize all you can from that physical standpoint. Obviously, you've got to continue to work at your craft. And, I think there's been some great examples of guys who just have perseverance and grit and stick to it. From the guys who've kind of broken through in the NBA this year as COVID has maybe opened up some chances. And, Alvarado from Georgia Tech, who, gets to play and has the game in the Garden where he's from in New York. I mean, there's been some great stories with that. So, yeah, I mean, I think if you really care about it and you really want to make the most out of it, you're going to get out of it what to a certain extent how much time you put into it. And then I think, enjoy the experience because the window is short and, it's easy while you're going through it to, I'm sore, I'm tired, I'm, all the things that, that we all complained about when we played, but at some point it's over and you don't get it back. And so enjoy it while you go through it. That would be one of my biggest bits of advice.
What advice would you give those future college coaches looking to get started, and what advice would you give them that are looking to go back to their alma mater to coach like you did?
I think just get into coaching, be around it as much as you can, try to seek out as many people as you can for advice. And, I mean, like everything, it's built on relationships. So, the more relationships you have, the more you're willing to give to other people and, be open to relationships, I think will benefit you because, that's a lot of how you get jobs. But you also got to be willing to probably put an amount of time into it where you're not making much money. Most of the people I know had a period of time where they made very little or nothing. And, you have to go through that to kind of break through, which is hard. And unfortunately that, probably, there's some people that don't have the privilege of being able to do that, to go through those periods where they're not making very much money and can still stick it out. But yeah, I mean, I think, like everything, you just keep putting in time, you work as hard as you can, you get to know as many people as you can, and hopefully you'll at some point get your chance, try to expound every opportunity to seek out opportunities to be around the game and meet new people and all those things. In terms of the alma mater piece, I mean, some of that's just luck. I was fortunate enough to be in a position where that happened. But I think if you have a good relationship with the people that are at that school and were at the school when you were there, hopefully that'll help you. Because to a certain extent, I think coaches like to have guys who went to that school because they really are passionate about the place and they know the place and they know the ins and outs of what it takes to be good there and all those things. So, but to a certain extent, you never know which opportunities are going to rise, and you got to kind of, figure it out as things come your way.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the Penn basketball program at?
So I'm on Twitter. I'm pretty frequent on Twitter. I don't really use Instagram, so I'm not there. So I think my Twitter handle is @natgram42, which is the one I made when somebody first taught me to be in Twitter so many years ago, and I've never changed it. The Penn basketball team, I think, is at Penn. I think it might just be at Penn basketball on Twitter. They're also on Instagram. I don't know about the other ones. That's the extent of my social media knowledge. But Penn basketball, would certainly give you all the much more of the Penn basketball information than I do. My Twitter is much more around social issues and things like that. To be honest, there's probably less basketball than people think from a basketball coach. But I use my Twitter to try to learn and pass on things that I think are interesting and around more societal issues. So I don't know. I'll leave it up to people to decide if that's their cup of tea or not.
Thank you again, Coach Nate Grantham, for your interview, and best of luck in your future at Penn University as the associate men's basketball coach.
Brandon, thank you for taking the time for me, and it was good to sit here and talk and get to know you a little bit.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Nate Grantham, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
All right. Take care, Brandon.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.